Sham Sharadava Nalalida Loka Tranaya Karuna Gana Ganatam Sham Sharadava Nalalida Loka Tranaya Karunya Gana Ganatam Prapta Sakalyana Gurana Vasya Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Prapta Sakalyana Gurana Vasya Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Mahaprabhu ki Tananita Gita Vaditra Madhyam Manasura Sena Romancha Kampasu Taranga Bhajo Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Romancha Kampasu Taranga Bhajo Vande Guru Shri Charanara Shri Vigrahara Dhanani Janana Shringaratanama Niramarjanado Jukta Sabhaktam Sa Niyunjatopi Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Chaturvidha Shri Bhagavat Prasado Satana Triptan Hari Bhakta Sangam Chaturvidha Shri Bhagavat Prasado Satana Triptan Kridvaiva Truptin Bhajata Shariva Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Shiradikama Vabayara Para Madhura Leela Guna Rupa Namna Shiradikama Madhura Leela Pratikshana Dhanalalupasya Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Nikunjayuno Ratikeli Siddhai Jayali Virijukti Apekshaniya Nikunjayuno Ratikeli Siddhai Jayali Virijukti Tatrati Daksha Ativala Vasya Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam Sakshadharidvena Shamastashrashre Ruktastatava Vyataiva Sadhuvi Sakyadari Kintu pravarja priya eva tasya Vande Gurashi charanara vrindam Yasya prasada bhagavat prasado Yasya prasadam nagati kutapi Yasya prasadam bhagavat prasadam Yasya prasadam Dhyayam stuvam tasya yasa trisandyam Vande Gurashi charanara vrindam Dhyayam stuvam tasya yasatrin sandhyam Vande Gurashi charanara vrindam Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitina Mine Nama Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunnavari Pachatarisha Tarine Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravani Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Chaitanya Nityananda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Nama, Krishna Jadavaye Nama, Jadavaye Madhavaye Kesavaye Namaha, Gopal Govindaram Shimadhusudam, Giridhari Gopina Madana Mohan, Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita, Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita, Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhattaraguna, Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasaraguna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Nitai Gora Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gora Hari Bol. Jai Vishwapar Paramansa Prabhaya Kacharya Sutra Sarashishima. Divine Grace, Abhojanavinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Pratishta Bhiviti Samstapakacharya Vaishnava Siromani Patita Pavan Srila Prabhupada Ji Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Guru Guru Varga Patiti Udhari Ki Jai. Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhakta Gunata Shri Jiva Gopala Bhakta Dasa Guna Sat Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ji Ki Jai. Nanta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai. प्रेम से कहो से कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासारि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। जय परम दयाल से नित्यानंद प्रभु की जय। जय प्रेम नाम संकीर्तन के जनक प्रेम पुरुषोत्तम श्री सच्चिनंदन स्म गौरंग श्री चैतन्य महाप्रभु गौर हरि महावृनय अवतार की जय। गोलोकेर प्रमधान हरि नाम संकीर्तन जय की जय। जुग धर्म हरि कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय। बृहद निदांग ट्रांसलेंटल बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन सेवा की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ राधा कुंज समकुंज गिरिराज गोवर्धन की जय। श्री ब्रजभूमि वृंदावन मथुर धाम की जय। टेलरशिप श्री श्री राधा नीला माधव की जय। श्री श्री मायापुर नवद्वीप चक्र धाम की जय। परम करुणा श्री श्री गौर निताय की जय। श्री पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। श्री जगन्नाथ स्वामी बलदेव प्रभु श्रीमती सुभद्रा देवी सुदर्शन चक्र भगवान की जय। श्री राम लक्ष्मण भक्त हनुमान जी की जय। भक्ति सर्व विघ्न विनाशन कनिष्ठंगरे भगवान की जय। जय गंगा माई जमुना माई की जय। तुलसी महारानी वृंदी देवी की जय। श्री मथुरा रानी की जय। समवेत भक्त वृंद की जय। निताय गौरी परमानंदे हरि। All glory to the Assembly bodies. All glory to the Assembly bodies. All glory to the Assembly bodies. All glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Guru. Shri Guru.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
La da la da da ine.
La la da la da da ine.
Hiranyakashipu Vakshaha.
Hiranyakashipu Vakshaha. Silatam Kanakalaye. Itoni Singa Paratoni Singa. Jaya Jata Jata Jami Tatani Singa. Vairi Singa Rudayini Singa. Narasinga Madhin Sharana Prapade.
Keshavadeta Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare
Tabakara Kamala Bare Nakam Advata Singha Dalita Hiranyakashipu Dhanabhinga Kesavadita Narari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare
Tavakara Kamala Vare Nakamadita Singam Dalita Hiranyakashipu Dhanuvengam Keshavadita Nahari Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare
Tabakara Kamala Bare Nakam Advata Singha Dalita Hiranyakashipu Dhanabhinga Kesavadita Narari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare
Jayo Narsimhadev Jayo Narsimhadev Jayo Narsimhadev Jayo Narsimhadev
Jaya Nisinghadev Jaya Nisinghadev Jaya Nisinghadev Jaya Nisinghadev
Jaya Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Prahlad Maharaj Prahlad Maharaj Jaya Jaya Prahlad Maharaj
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada
Jaya Jaya Gurudev
Gurudev
Gurudev Jaya Jaya Gurudev
Jaya Jaya Gurudev 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 Jaya Jaya Guru जय श्री श्री भक्ति पद सर्वविघ्नाशना कनिष्ठ हरे भगवान की जय जय भक्त श्रेष्ठ प्रहलाद महाराज की जय गौर प्रमानंदे हरि बोल। श्री वृंदाई तुलसी बाई प्रिय के सब सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्रारे देवी सतवताय नमो नमः। वृंदाई तुलसी बाई प्रिय के सब सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्रारे देवी सतवताय नमो नमः। वृंदाय तुलसी देवाय प्रिय केशव सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्रादे देवी सतवताय नमो नमः। श्रीमती तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जय।
Namo Namaha Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Namaha
Tulasi Krishna Preyasi
Namo Namaha Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Namaha
Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo
Radha Krishna Seva Pavo Ye Abhilasi
Radha Krishna Seva Pavo
Ye Abhilasi Radha Krishna Seva Pavo Ye Abhilasi
Radha Krishna Seva Pavo
Jai tumhara saran loy Tara vancha purana loy
Jai tumhara saranala Tara vancha purna
Kripa kori koro tare Vrindavana vasi
Tumi kripa kari karatare Vrindavana vasi
Moraya Bilas Bilas kunjadiyavas
Moraya
Bilas
Vilas
kunjadiyavas Nayane ribosada Jugalaruparasi Nayane ribosada Jugalaruparasi Eni Vedanadaro Sakiranugata Koro
Eni Vedanadara Sakirayana Katakoro
Sevadikara diye Koro nijadasi
Sevayade Karadiye Koroni Jadasi
Dina Krishna dase koi Ye ye namora hoy
Dina
Krishna
Krishna
dase koi Ye ye namora Shri Radha Govinda Preme Sada ye napasi
Shri
Radha Govinda Preme Shri Radha Govinda Preme Sada Yena Bashi.
Shri Radha Govinda Preme
Sada Yena Bashi. Yani Kani Cha Papani Brahmatyadikani Cha Tani Tani Pranasyante Pradakshina Pade Pade.
Chapani Kani
Chapapani Brahmatyadikani Cha Tani Tani Pranasante Pradakshina Pade Pade. Yani Kani Chapapani Brahmatyadikani Cha Tani Tani Pranasyante Pradakshina Pade Pade.
Jani Kani
Chapapani Brahmatyadikani Cha Tani Tani Pranasyante Pradakshina Pade Pade. Yani Kani Chapapani Brahmatyadikani Cha Tani Tani Pranasyante Pradakshina Pade Pade.
Jani Kani Chapapani
Brahmatyadikani Cha Tani Tani Pranasyante Pradakshina Pade Pade. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Vrinda Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi.
Jaya Tusi Marani, Jaya Tusi Marani, Tusi Marani,
Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi.
Jaya Vrinda Devi, Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi.
Jai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol,
Nitai Gaura
Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol.
Jai Krishna Maharani ki Shri Vrindai Tulasi Vai Priyaye Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Shatavataye Namo Namaha. Vrindai tulasi devai priyai kesava satya Vishnu bhakti prade devi satavatai namo namaha. Vrindayai tulasi devai priyai kesava satya Vishnu bhakti prade devi satavatai namo namaha. Shrimati Tulasi Maharani Brinda Devi Ki Jai. Oh Tulasi, beloved Krishna, I bow before you again and again. My desire to obtain the service of Shri Radha and Krishna. Whoever takes shelter of you, his wish is fulfilled. Bestow your mercy upon him, you make him resident of Vrindavan. My desire is that you also give me a residence in pleasure groves of Shri Vrindavan. That's within my vision. I will always behold the beautiful pastimes of Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me a follower of Kavya damsels of Raj. Please give me the privilege of devotional service and make me your own maid servant. This very fallen and lowly servant of Krishna praise, may I always swim in love with Shri Radha and Govind, Shri Mati Tulasi Maharani Vrindadevi. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shri Kastakam Ki Jai. Chaito Darpanama Janam Bhavamada Paninvapanam Shri Akari Vachandika Vitaranam Vidavadu Jivanam Anandam Buddhivadhanam Patipadam Purnamrita Sadhanam Sarvatmasnam Param Paravijayati Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Baudha Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatrarpita Niyamita Shmaranena Kala Itadusiti Pakripaya Bhagavan Mamapi Durdhaivam Idisham Yajanena Nurang Vinarapi Sunichena Tarorapi Saishnuna Amani Namana Dena Kirtaniya Sadahari Radhanam Najanam Nasundarim Kavitam Vajagarisha Kamayi Mama Janmani Janmanishwari Bhavatar Bhakti Raituki Tvai Oinandatanuja Kinkaram Paditamam Visame Vavambudu Kripaya Tava Parapankaja Stitadule Sadisham Vichindu Nayanam Galorashrudaraya Vadanam Gadugadarudaya Giru Pulakayin Chitam Papukadu Tavanamagrane Bhavisati Jugaitam Nimishena Chakusha Pravrushaitam Sunyaitam Jagat Sarvam Govinda Virainame Asli Shabhapadaratam Pinastumam Adarshanan Marmahatam Karotuva Jatatatha Viradatulam Pato Matprana Natastu Saivana Para Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shri Kastakam Ki Jai. Namo Mahavaranayo Krishna Prema Pradayati Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Namena Guru Krishna. Glory to the Shri Krishna Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart world that has accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life of repeated birth and death. The Sankirtan moment is a prime benediction for humanity at large, because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds of millions of names like Krishna and Govind. In these transcendental names you have invested all your transcendental energies. There is not even hard and fast rule for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names. But I'm so unfortunate I have no attraction for them. Once we chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself Lord on stony street, one should be more tolerant than a tree. Devoid of all sense of false prestige. One should be ready to offer all respect to others.
In such state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. Oh, Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire to be women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want
cause of service perfect to that. O son of Maharashinanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Yet somehow or rather I'm falling this ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at the Yoda's feet. O my Lord, will my eyes be decorated with tears of love, flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? Will my voice choke up? Or will the hairs of my body stand on the end of the recitation of your name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, I'm considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I feel all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna is my Lord, and he surely meant so. Even if sunders me roughly by his embrace or makes me broken-hearted, by no being present before me, he is completely free to do anything and everything, for he's always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. Jesus, Mahaprabhu. There are 10 offenses in matter of chanting the holy name of the Lord that should be avoided. They are as follows. 1.
To blaspheme and devote,
Bodies
to dedicate their
life
lives
for
to
propagating
propagating
holy name of the
the
Lord.
Lord.
2.
Consider me as a demigod, Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, to be equal to independent names of Lord Vishnu. Disobey the orders of the spiritual master. To blaspheme the Vedic literature, or literature in pursuance to the Vedic version. 5. To consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna as imagination. 6. To give some interpretation on the holy name of the Lord. 7. To commit sinful activities on the strength of chanting the holy name of the Lord. To consider the chanting of Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities, which are often evaded as fruit of activities of karma kanda. To instruct the faithless person about the glories of the holy name. 10. To not have complete faith in chanting the holy names, and to maintain material attachments even after understanding so many instructions in this matter. It's sort of offensive and attentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be Vaishnava must carefully guard against these 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success, Krishna Prema. Now let us offer our most humble obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They are just like desire trees that can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Vanchikalpatarabhyascha kripa sindhubhyevacha patittanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Vaishnava Thakur ki jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutali Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Tinamini Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Devrisesa Sunivali Paskatya Desatarni Jai. Srimad Bhagavatam Grantaraj ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Janmad Yasya Yato Nivayat Yataratas Charteso Vigyaswarat. Tene Brahma Hidaya Adikavaye Muyantiyat Suraya Tejo Vari Madam Yatavini Mayo Yatrati Sago Mesha Tam Nasvena Sada Nirasta Kuhakam Satyam Param Dhimayi. O my Lord Shri Krishna, son of Vasudeva.
O my Lord Shri Krishna, son of Vasudeva.
O all-pervading personality, Godhead.
O all-pervading personality.
I offer my respectful obeisances unto you.
I offer my respectful obeisances.
I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute truth.
I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna
And the primeval cause of all creation.
causes
Of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of manifested universes.
creation, sustenance, and destruction of manifestation.
He is directly and indirectly conscious of all
He is
manifestations.
directly or indirectly conscious of all manifestations.
And he is independent because there is no other cause beyond
He is
him.
independent because there is no other cause.
It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge into the heart of
It
Brahmaji,
is shown who first imparted the Vedic knowledge into the heart of Brahma,
the original living
the
being.
original living being.
By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion,
By him, even a good sage,
as one is bewildered by the illusory representations
bewildered by the illusory representation
of water seen in fire, or land seen on water.
water seen the fire, land seen
Only because of him do the material universes,
only because of him do the material
temporarily manifested by reactions to the three modes of
manifested
nature,
by the reaction of three modes of nature,
appear factual although they're unreal.
appear factual, although they
I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri
I
Krishna,
therefore meditate upon him, Lord
who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode,
eternally existent in the trans
which is forever free from the illusory representations in the material world.
which is forever free from illusory representation.
I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute
I
truth.
meditate upon him from his the absolute.
Dharma Projita, Kaitavotra,
Dharma Pujita Kaito
Paramoni Matsuranam Satam,
Nirvashana.
Vedyam Vastavam Atra Vastu,
Vedam Vastavam
Shivadam Tapa Trayon Mulanam,
Shivadam Tapo Travanam.
Shrimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite,
Bhagavate Maha
Kim Vaparer Ishwaraha,
Vaparish
Sadya Hridaya Avarudurte Tra,
Sadhurudya Varidati
Krite Behisususubistakshana,
Kriti Vihi Shishushu.
completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated.
Rejecting all religious activities from it.
This Bhagavata Purana propounds the highest truth,
Bhagavad Purana propounds the high truth,
which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart.
which is understandable by those devotees fully.
The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the
The
welfare of
highest
all.
truth, reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare.
Such truth uproots the threefold
Such a
miseries.
truth uproots the threefold
This beautiful Bhagavatam compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in its maturity
This beautiful Bhagavatam compared with great saviors that in maturity.
is sufficient in itself for God realization.
It's sufficient itself for God.
What is the need of any other scripture?
What is the need of the other
As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam,
As soon as one attentively submissive hears the message of
by
God,
this culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within his heart.
Supreme Lord is established.
Nigama kalpataro galitam phalam,
Nigamakalpatoro Gaita,
sukhamukad amrita dravya samyatam,
Shukamukhara,
pibata bhagavatam rasam alayam,
Pibata Bhagavatam,
mahur aho raskabhu vibhavaka.
Ahora Rasika,
O expert and thoughtful man, relish Srimad
O
Bhagavatam,
expert and thoughtful man,
the mature fruit of the desire to read Vedic literatures.
It
It emanated from the lips of Sri Sukadeva Goswami.
emanated from the lips of Sri.
Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful.
Therefore, this food has become
Although its nectarian juice was already relishable for
although
all,
this nectarian juice is already
including liberated souls. Shinvatam Swakita Krishna,
Shambhatam Swakata,
Punya Shravana Kirtana,
Punya Shravana,
Hiryantak Stohi Badrani,
Tastoya,
Vidunati Suhitsatam.
Notice,
To hear about Krishna from Vedic literatures,
hear about Krishna,
or to hear from him directly through the Bhagavad Gita,
or to hear from him directly,
is itself righteous activity.
it is self-right.
And for one who hears about Krishna,
For who hears
Lord Krishna, who is dwelling in everyone's heart,
Krishna's dwelling within
acts as a best wishing friend
acts as
and purifies the devotee who constantly engages in hearing of him.
purifies the body, constantly engages in hearing.
Nasta presu abhadresu
Nasta Praisha Bhagavad
nityam bhagavata sevaya
Bhagavata
bhagavati tamasloke
Bhagavati
bhaktir bhavati naistaki.
Bhakti Bhagavati.
In this way, a devotee naturally develops his dormant transcendental
In
knowledge.
this way, devotee naturally develops his dormant transcendental.
As he hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavatam
As he hears more about Krishna,
and from the devotees, he becomes fixed in the devotional service to the Lord.
becomes fixed in the personal service.
Tadarajastamo bhava
Rajastamo
kamalobhadayaschaye chaititaya navidam stitvam sattve prasidhate. By development of devotional service, one becomes freed from the modes of passion and ignorance, and thus material lust and avarice are diminished. Evam prasana manaso bhagavat bhakti yogataha bhagavat tattva vijnanam mukta sangha sijayate. When these impurities are wiped away, the candidate remains steady in his position of pure goodness, becomes enlivened by devotional service, and understands the science of God perfectly. Vidyate hridaya grantis, chidyante sarvasamsaya, shiyante jasya karmani, jista evat manishware. Thus, Bhakti Yoga severs the hard knot of material affection and enables one to come at once to the stage of a samsayam samagram, understanding of the Supreme Absolute Truth, Personality, Godhead. Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or from his devotee in Krishna consciousness can one understand the science of Krishna. Shishi Guru Vastuka prayers ki jai. The spiritual master is receiving benediction from the ocean of mercy, just as a cloud pours water on a forest fire to extinguish it. So the spiritual master delivers the materially afflicted world by extinguishing the blazing fire of material existence. I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such spiritual master as an ocean of auspicious qualities. chanting your holy name, dancing in ecstasy, singing and playing musical instruments.
chanting holy name, dancing in ecstasy, singing, playing music.
The spiritual master is always enlivened by the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu,
Spiritual master is always enlightened by the Sankirtan movement of the Lord.
because he is relishing the mellows of pure devotion within his mind.
Relishing the mellows of pure devotion within himself.
Sometimes his hair stands on end.
Sometimes he has
He feels quivering in his body,
he feels quivering,
and tears flow from his eyes like waves.
and tears from his eyes like
I offer my respectful obeisance to the lotus feet as such a spiritual master.
of my respectful blessings to the Lord.
The spiritual master is always engaged in the temple worship of Shri Radha and Krishna.
The spiritual master always engaged in temple worship, Shishirada.
He also engages his disciples in such worship.
He also engages his disciples.
They dress the deities in beautiful clothes and ornaments,
They lives in beautiful clothes,
clean their temple,
clean the
and
temple,
perform other similar worship of the Lord.
and perform other similar worship.
I offer my respectful obeisance to the lotus feet as such a spiritual master.
Of my respectful blessings to the Lord.
The spiritual master is always offering Krishna 4 kinds of delicious food.
The spiritual master always offering Krishna for kind, delicious,
Analyzes that which is licked, chewed, drunk, and sucked.
and as that
The spiritual master sees that the devotees are satisfied by eating Bhagavad Prasada.
the spiritual master sees that the devotees are satisfied by eating.
He is satisfied.
He is satisfied.
I offer my respectful obeisance to the lotus feet as such a spiritual master.
My respectful blessings to the Lord.
The spiritual master is always eager to hear and chant about the unlimited conjugal pastimes of Radhika and Madhava,
The spiritual master always eager to hear and chant about the unlimited conjugal past
and their qualities, names, and forms.
what is his name.
The spiritual master aspires to relish these at every moment.
The spiritual master aspires to relish these at the
I offer my respectful obeisance to the lotus feet as such a spiritual master.
blessings to the Lord.
The spiritual master is very dear because he is expert at assisting the gopis who at different times make different tasteful arrangements for the perfection of Radha and Krishna's conjugal loving affairs within the groves of Vrindavan.
The spiritual master is very dear because he's actually assisting the gopis who at different time make different tasteful arrangements for the perfection of Radha and Krishna's conjugal loving affair within the group.
I offer my most humble obeisance to the lotus feet as such a spiritual master.
Of my most humble blessings and Lord.
The spiritual master is to be honored as much as the Supreme Lord because he is the most confidential servitor of the Lord.
The spiritual master be honored as much as the Supreme Lord because he's the most confidential servant.
This is acknowledged in all revealed scriptures and followed by all authorities.
Acknowledged in all revealed scriptures and followed by all authorities.
Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisance to the lotus feet as such a spiritual master who is a bona fide representative of Sri Hare Krishna.
Therefore, I offer my respectful blessings to the Lord to such a spiritual master who is a bona fide representative of Shri Hare.
By the mercy of the spiritual master, one receives the benediction of Krishna.
By the mercy of the spiritual master, one receives the benediction.
Without the grace of the spiritual master, one cannot make any advancement.
Without the grace of the spiritual master, cannot make.
Therefore, I should always remember and praise the spiritual master.
Therefore, I should always remember and pray the spiritual
At least 3 times a day, I should offer my respectful obeisance to the lotus feet of my spiritual master.
Every 3 times a day, I should offer my humble blessings to the Lord of my spiritual master.
Shri Brahma Samhita ki jai, Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachitananda Vigraha Nadi Raja Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam.
Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachirananda Vigraha Anadi Radhi Govinda Sarvakarana
Chantamani Prakara Sadma Sukalpa Vriksha
Chintamani Prakara Sadma Sukalpa
Lakshavrite Surabhira Vipaliyantam
Lakshya Viteshi Suravi Rapita
Lakshmi Sahasra Satasambhrama Sevyamanam
Lakshmi Sahasra Satasam
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Tamari Purusham
Venum Kvanantam Alabrinda Dalayataksham
Venum Kvanantam Aravinda Daila
Parhavatam Samasitam Buddhasundarangam
Arambata Samasitam
Kandarpa Koti Kamaniya Visesha Sobham
Darpakoti Kamaniya Vishya
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Tamari Purusham
Alola Chandrakala Sadvanamaya Vamsi
Alola Chandrakala Sarvanamara
Ratnam Gadam Pranayakeli Kalavilasam
Rangadam Pranayakiri Kalam
Shyamam Trivanga Lalita Niyata Prakasam
Yamam Jibangalaritam
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Yavindam Adi Purusham
Angani Yasya Sakalandriya Vrittimanti
Angani Yasha Sakalindriya Vritti
Pasyanti Panti Kalyanti Chiram Jaganti
Pasyanti Panti Kalayanti Chiranjana
Ananda Chinmaya Sadujvala Vigrahasya
Nanda Chinmaya Sadhujana
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Vindamari Purusham
Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Ananta Rupam
Vitam Achutam Anadi Mananta
Adyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam Cha
Adyam Purana Purusham Navayu
Vede Sadurlabam Adurlabam Atma Bhakto
Vedeshu Durlabham Adurlabham
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Govindam Adi Purusham
Pantastakoti Satavatsara Sampragamyo
Fantastikoti Satasam Brahmasan
Vayuratapi Manaso Muni Pungamanam
Vayu Ratapi Manaso Muni Pungam
Sobhyasti Yat Prapadasim Yavijintya Tatve
Vyasi Yat Upadasya
Govindam Adipurisham Tamaham Bhajami. Ekopya Sora Chayatam Jagananda Kotyam. Yaschaktirasti Jagananda Chaya Yadanta. Andantarasta Paramanu Chayantarastam. Govindam Adipurisham Tamaham Bhajami. Yad Bhava Bhavita Diyo Manajasta Taiva. Samprapya Rupa Mahima Sanayana Bhusaha. Suktaryameva Nigama Pratitaistuvanti. Govindam Adipurisham Tamaham Bhajami. Ananda Chinmaya Rasat Patibhavitabhis. Tabhirya Eva Nicharupa Taya Kalabhihi. Goloka Eva Nivasata Kilatma Bhuto. Govindam Adipurisham Tamaham Bhajami. Premanjana Charita Bhakti Vilochanena. Santak Sadaiva Hidesu Vilokayanti. Yam Shama Sundaram Achintya Gunaswarupam. Govindam Adipurisham Tamaham Bhajami. Ramadi Murti Sukalani Yamena Tistan. Nanavataram Akarod Bhuvane Sukintu. Krishna Swayam Samabhavat Paramaha Pumamyo. Govindam Adipurisham Tamaham Bhajami. Yasya Prabha Prabhavato Jagananda Koti. Koti Svasesa Vasudadi Vibhuti Binam Kotis. Tad Brahmaniskalam Anantam Asesa Bhutam. Govindam Adipurisham Tamaham Bhajami. Maya Hiyasya Jagananda Satani Sute. Jai Gunyatad Vishaya Veda Vitayamana. Sattva Valambi Parasattvam Visuddha Sattvam. Govindam Adipurisham Tamaham Bhajami. Ananda Chinmaya Rasat Mataya Manasu. Ya Praninam Pratifalam Smaratam Upetya. Lilayatena Bhuvanani Jayat Yajasram. Govindam Adipurisham Tamaham Bhajami. Goloka Namni Nijadamni Talechatasya. Devi Mahesa Haridama Sute Sutesu. Te Prabhava Nichaya Vihitaschayena. Govindam Adipurisham Tamaham Bhajami. Sristi Stati Pralaya Sadhava Saktireka. Jayeva Yasya Bhavanani Vibharti Durga. Ichyanurupam Apiyasya Chachestatesa. Govindam Adipurisham Tamaham Bhajami. Shiram Yata Dadi Vikara Visesa Yoga. Sanjayate Nahitata Pritakasti Hetaho. Yasam Bhutam Apitata Samupaiti Karyat. Govindam Adipurisham Tamaham Bhajami. Deeparchadev Hita Santaram Abhyupetya. Deepayate Rivita Hetu Samana Dharma. Yastadrigeva Hicha Vishnu Taya Vibhati. Govindam Adipurisham Tamaham Bhajami. Yakarna Narna Vajale Bhajatisma Yoga. Nidram Ananta Jagananda Saroma Kupaha. Adhara Shakti Mavalambya Paramsma Murtim. Govindam Adipurisham Tamaham Bhajami. Yasyaika Nisvasita Kala Matavalambya. Jivanti Loma Vilaja Jagananda Nataha. Vishnur Mahansahi Yasya Kala Vishesho. Govindam Adipurisham Tamaham Bhajami. Basman Yatasma Sakalesu Nijesu Tejaha. Swayam Kiyat Prakatayat Apitadvadatra. Brahmaya Esa Jagananda Vidana Karta. Govindam Adipurisham Tamaham Bhajami. Yat Pada Palavi Yugam Vinidaya Kumbha Dvande Pranama Samayesa Ganadi Raja Vignan Vihantam Alamasya Jagatrayasya Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Agnir Mahiga Ganamambu Marudisascha Kalas Tatatma Manasiti Jagatrayani Yasmad Bhavanti Vibhavanti Visanti Yamcha Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yes Chaksuresa Savita Sakalagrahanam Raja Samasta Suramurti Rasesa Tejaha Yasya Gaya Brahmati Sambrita Kala Chakro Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Dharmo Tapapa Nichaya Shrutayastapamsi Rama Dikita Patagava Deyascha Jivaha Yadata Matra Vibhava Prakata Pravava Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yastrinda Gopa Matavendra Mahoswakarma Bandhana Rupa Falabhajana Matanoti Karmani Nidhati Kintu Chabakti Bhajam Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yam Krodha Kama Sahaja Pranayadi Bitti Vatsalya Moha Guru Gora Vasevya Bhavahai Sanchintya Tasya Sadrisim Tanamapurete Bhavai Govindam Adi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Shriya Kanta Kanta Parama Purusha Kalpataravo Juma Bhumis Chintamani Ganama Itoyam Amritam Kata Ganam Natyam Gamanam Apivam Sipriyasaki Chid Anandam Jyotiparam Apitad Asvadyam Apicha Sayatra Shiradi Bhi Shravati Shrabi Bhyascha Sumahan Nime Sardakyuva Rajati Nahiya Trapi Samaya Bhajay Svita Dvipam Tamaham Iha Golakamitiyam Vidantaste Santakshiti Viravachara Katipaye Shish Upanishad Ki Jai Om Purnam Ada Purnam Idam Purnat Purnam Udachate Purnasya Purnam Adaya Purnam Eva Vasishyate Shivaishamidam Sarvam Jatkinja Jagatyam Jagatina Taktena Bunjitaham Agridaha Kashisviddanam Kurvani Vakarmani Jiva Chekchatam Samaha Evam Twayi Nanyatetusti Nakarma Lipite Nare Asurya Namate Loka Andena Tamasafritaha Tamste Pratya Bigachanti Yeke Chatma Hano Janaha Anijarikam Manaso Javio Nena Devam Apravam Pravam Asata Davatonyana Teti Tistat Tasminapu Mataviswa Dadati Tadejati Tanejati Tadure Tadvantike Tadantarasya Sarvasya Tadu Sarvasya Sarvayataha Yastu Sarvani Bhutani Atmane Vanupasyati Sarvabhute Sachatmanam Tato Na Vijagupsate Yasmin Sarvani Bhutani Atmeva Budvijanataha Tatra Ko Maha Kahasoka Ekadvam Anupasyataha Sa prayagat shukamakayam avranam asnaviram sudam apapavidam kabir manisi paribu swayambhu yatatat yato ritan gnadadach jasvatipyaha samabhyaha andam tamaha pravishanti ye vidyam upasyate tato bhuyavate tamo yayu vidyayam rataha Anyadevhur vidyaya anyadahura vidyaya iti susrimadiranam yenastad vichachaksire avidyam cha yas yastad vedovayam saha avidyaya militam tirva vidyayam ritamasnate Anya tamaha pavisanti ye sambhutim apasyate tato bhuyavate tamo ya yusambhutam rataha
Andam tama pravishanti ye sambutim upasate tato bhuya ibate tamo ya usambutyam rataha.
Anya devahur sambhavat anya dahur sambhavat iti susrumadhiranam yenastad vichachakshire
Anya devahu sambhavat anya ahu asambhavat iti susrumadhiranam yenastad vichachakshire.
Sambhutim cha vinasam cha yastad vedavayam saha vinasena miritum tirva sambhutam ritamasnate
Sambutim cha vinasena cha yasta vido vayasaha vinashena mrityum tirva sambutyam ritam asmate.
Hiranmayana patrena satyasya pyutam makam tatvam pusam apavrinu satyadharma yadristaye
Hiranmayana pratyena satya vihitam mukam tatvam pusham avan vishnu satya vataya dustaye.
pusaneka seyamasuya prajapatya vyuha rasmin samahatejo yate rupam kalyanatamam tate pasyami yo savasu purushaha suhamasmi
Usanikasi Yamasurya Prajapatya Vinorasim Samupitejo Tate Rupam Kalyana Tamatate Pasami Yasamasu Krishahum
Vayuranilam amritam atedam basmantam sariram om krato smara kritam smara krato smara kritam smara
Vayunani Lamamritam Adedam Vasmatam Shariram Om Kratushmara Kritasmara Kratushmara Kritasmara
Om Agnenaya Supatara Swan Vishwani Deva Vayunani Vidwan Yodajmas Juhurami no Puyastam Te Nama Uktim Vidima Om Tatsat
Om Agne Naya Supataraye Asman Vishwandeva Yunani Vidyam Yodi Asmade Juranam Eno Ujitam Te Nama Puktim Vidima Om Tatsat.
Haribol. So we're going to start chanting a few more verses. This is from the nectar of instruction. Vachavegam, Manasakroda Vegam, Jiva Vegam, Udarapasta Vegam, Etan Vegam, Yo Vishaheta Dirak, Sarvam Apimam Prativim Sasisyat. Atyahara Prayasascha Prajapo Niyamagraha Janasangas Chalolam Cha Sadbir Bhakti Vinasyati Utsahan Nishchaya Daryat Tatat Karma Pravartanat Sangatyagat Sato Vrite Sadbir Bhakti Visiddhati Dadati Pratiginanti Guyam Yak Akyati Pritchati Bhunkte Bhojayate Chaiva Sadvida Priti Lakshanam. So we'll start saying that starting tomorrow. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 7, verse number 27 again. There is no doubt about Lord Krishna's being the Supreme Lord. Otherwise, how was it possible for him to kill a giant demon like Putana when he was just on the lap of his mother, to overturn a cart with his leg when he was only 3 months old, to uproot a pair of Arjuna trees so high that they touched the sky when he was only crawling? All these activities are impossible for anyone other than the Lord himself. So we've been going over the unique qualities of Krishna. Once you understand these, then you become a genuine devotee, because you understand no one is equal to Krishna, no one is greater than Krishna, everyone is subordinate to Krishna. Krishna is the origin of everything in the spiritual world, and the material world. He contains everything in the material world in his universal form, Virat Rupa. All emanations from him in the spiritual world, like Balaram, number one, the first Chaturvyuha, Vasudeva, Sankarsan, Aniruddha, and Pradumna, and then Narayana, then the second Chaturvyuha, and then the Vishnu incarnations in the material world, Mahavishnu, Garbhodaksha Vishnu, Kshirodaksha Vishnu, then from Kshirodaksha Vishnu, all kinds of avatars like Matsya, Kurma, and Narsingha. There's some are human-like, some are mixed human and animal, some are just animal. And Krishna incarnates in every species. There are 8,400,000 species. And besides all that, Krishna is present in the heart of every living entity as Paramatma, and in every atom of the universe. And Krishna winds up the entire material universe by absorbing it in his body as Mahavishnu, and Mahavishnu is an expansion of Krishna. So we see that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He has incredible energies. No one can imagine the extent of his energies. But yet there are many similarities between living entities like us and Krishna. We have up to 78% of Krishna's transcendental qualities, but we're never equal to him. But we are equal in one sense of eternity. But then there's knowledge and bliss, and we can get a lot of knowledge, but we'll never completely know everything about Krishna. As far as bliss goes, we can never really measure it, because as soon as we measure it, it increases. So we see Krishna is beyond the comprehension of ordinary living entities, and even great sages have difficulty understanding him. So no one will ever know everything about Krishna, but we can learn a lot about Krishna, and the more we learn, the more we're convinced that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he's the origin of everything. So we're going to continue learning some more of his transcendental qualities from the second canto, 9th chapter, 33rd verse. So there's 4 verses that are the foundation of the entire Srimad Bhagavatam. There's 2, 9, 31, 32, 33, and 34. So today we're going to try and finish up verse 33. We've already done 34, and we already did 31 and 32. So it's just number 33 that we're going to try and finish up. So yesterday we learned that the Mayavadis claim that the Supreme Absolute Truth has no activities. And they deny that the Supreme Absolute Truth is a person. So in both of those concepts or beliefs of Mayavadi, they're both wrong. And we showed the verse in Bhagavad Gita, 3rd chapter. Krishna says that, he has nothing to do, but yet he still comes and gives an example of how to follow his instructions. For if he didn't do that, then the whole world would be put into chaos. And that's in the 3rd chapter. And then we also discussed how there is both impersonal and personal realization of the Lord. They are simultaneously present all the time. And that is an extremely important point, because this is also misunderstood by the Mayavadis. They claim that in the ultimate state, there is no Krishna the person, there's no Vaikuntha, there's no Goloka, there's no Surabhi cows, there's no Nanda Maharaj, Yasoda, none of these things. They deny all that. They say there's only Brahman, effulgence. Well, that's not true. Of course, Krishna 14, 27th verse, chapter 14, 27th verse says, Brahmana hi pratistaham amritam yasya cha sasvatasya chatarmasya sukaisya kantikasya cha. He says that, and I am the source of the Brahman effulgence. So it is the effulgence emanating from the body of Krishna. But beyond that effulgence is also the Paramatma, which is present everywhere in the material universe. And also, above that, there's Krishna, the source of Paramatma, the source of Brahma Jyoti, the source of all the material creation, the source of all jivas or living entities, the source of everything. So the Mayavadis have got so many things wrong, in fact, almost everything, but they explain it in such a way that people who have no education and no knowledge, they believe them. Because if you know nothing, you can believe anything. So, but this point is very important, and that is in the Brihad Aranyakya Upanishad 1.4.1, there is a mantra, Atmai Vedam Agra Asit Purusha Vidaha. And this mantra indicates the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, even before the appearance of the Purusha incarnation. Purusha incarnation means Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshay Vishnu, Shirodakshay Vishnu. Now, this is very important because whenever there's an Upanishadic quote that has what you consider for traditional Vedantas the utmost authority. Of course, for Vaishnavas, utmost authority is Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. But when one is discussing with professional Vedantists, they won't accept oftentimes the statements of Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam, or they consider them inferior to the Upanishads. So here's an Upanishadic verse, Brihad Aranyakya Upanishad, and it says that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, appeared even before, it was existent even before the Purusha incarnations. So in the Bhagavad Gita, this is also said. So we get to the 15th chapter, 18th verse, and it says, chapter 18, Yasmat Sharam Atito Ham Aksharad Apichotama Atosmi Loki Vedecha Pratitai Purushottamaha. This is a very important verse if you want to defeat the Mayavadis. And it says, Krishna says himself, I am transcendental, because I am transcendental, beyond both the fallible and the infallible. So, fallible is kshara, and infallible is akshara. So akshara means infallible or imperishable, is always existing. So he says, I'm above both the Purusha Shara and the Purusha Akshara. And then it says, and because I am the greatest, I am celebrated both in this world, in the world and in the Vedas as the Supreme Person. So in the purport, Prabhupada says, no one can surpass the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, neither the conditioned soul nor the liberated soul. He is therefore the greatest of personalities. Now it is, so that's the whole point. We're trying to learn how he's the greatest of all personalities. Once, it's not only you say he's the greatest, but when you can explain how, then you have real knowledge, and you can defeat anyone in any type of discussion if they challenge it, because now you know you can go through a whole list, a whole litany of unique qualities of Krishna. That's what we've been studying the last 2 weeks at least. Now it is clear here that the living entities and the Supreme Personality of Godhead are individuals. The difference is that the living entities, either in the conditioned state or in the liberated state, cannot surpass in quantity the inconceivable potencies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is incorrect to think of the Supreme Lord and the living entities as being on the same level or equal in all respects. There is always the question of superiority and inferiority between their personalities. So, people today, they want to say that everything is equal. There's a big push now on equality, and in other words, that everyone should be on the same level. But that's not a fact. If someone is born blind, is that person on the same level as someone who's born and has perfect vision? No. If someone is born with bodily deformations, Does that mean that they're equal to someone who has no bodily deformation? Someone who's born autistic, are they equal with someone who's born a genius? No. There's always going to be differences in powers and intelligence and so forth. So, yeah, on one level there is equality. We are all eternal. But the same people who talk about equality, they deny the existence of the eternal soul. They think everything is just the body and material. So you cannot make all material bodies equal, or all material brains equal, because that's an artificial thing. However, everyone is equal as far as eternity goes, and everyone is equal in as far as having a chance to go back to Godhead in this lifetime, whether you're intelligent or you're ignorant. It doesn't matter, because Krishna will enlighten even the most ignorant person with transcendental knowledge if they surrender to him and engage in his service. So here it says, the difference is that the living entities, either in the conditioned state or in the liberated state, cannot surpass in quantity the inconceivable potencies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is incorrect to think of the Supreme Lord and the living entities as being on the same level or equal in all respects. Well, nowadays there's so many people that say, well, I did some yoga and I became God, and you can worship me now. You see, so many people like that. They claim they became God, but God is always God. He doesn't have to become God. He's always God. So anyone who claims that they became God by some process of yoga or this or that, by smoking marijuana or whatever, that's all nonsense. There's no such thing as becoming God. You can become godly, but you cannot become God, because there's only one supreme, unique personality of Godhead. His name is Krishna. No one is equal to him. No one is greater than him. There is always the question of superiority and inferiority. Well, now, if you say that today, let's say you're in school and you say, well, there's always the question of superiority and inferiority. They'll scream at you. What did you say? You're a boorish, bigoted person. We're all equal. No, but that's not true. We're all equal. We're all Americans, but we're not all Joe Biden, President of the United States. So how can we all be equal? You see? So there is always a question of superiority and inferiority between their personalities. The word Uttama is very significant. No one can surpass the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in this verse it says, Yasmat Sharam Atitoham. And that is, because I am transcendental beyond both the fallible and the infallible. Fallible means people who make mistakes. Infallible means someone who doesn't make any mistakes. So Krishna is saying that because I am transcendental to all persons who are fallible and infallible, and therefore I am Uttama, the best of the whole herd. There's no one that's equal to me or greater than me, right? And then he says, Atosmi loke Vedecha Pratitai Purushottama. And because I am the greatest, I am celebrated both in the world and in the Vedas as that supreme person, Purushottama. He is above all ignorance. He's above all conditionment. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So therefore, it says, the Supreme Lord, in his localized aspect of Paramatma, is also described in the Vedas themselves. The following verse appears in the Vedas, Chandogya Upanishad 8.12.3. Tavad esa samprasado smaj charirat samuttaya param jyoti rupam sampadya svena rupena vinispadyate sa uttama purushaha. Again, Uttama Purushaha, the Supreme Person. The Super Soul coming out of the body, because the Super Soul is present in the heart of all living entities. So it says the super soul coming out of the body enters the impersonal Brahma Jyoti, and then in his form, he remains in his spiritual identity. So that means that the super soul, which is an expansion of Krishna, comes out of the body of the living entity at let's say, at the moment of pralaya, the destruction of the material world, or the reabsorption of the material world back into the body of Mahavishnu, and takes refuge in the Brahma Jyoti, which is the expansion of Krishna's effulgence, and eventually goes back to Lord Krishna himself. So this expansion of himself, it's like a spider. A spider can expand its saliva and make a web, right? A very beautiful geometric web. It can also reabsorb it because it's its saliva. It can also reabsorb it back into its body. So if you want to learn about insects and animals, you have to read Srimad Bhagavatam. It explains all these things. If you read the normal books, you may or may not know these things. They may or may not mention them. But Bhagavatam mentions everything about nature, if you really want to understand nature. So, therefore, it says that the super soul coming out of the body enters the impersonal Brahma Jyoti, and then in his form, he remains in his spiritual identity. That supreme is called the Supreme Personality. This means that the Supreme Personality is exhibiting and diffusing his spiritual effulgence, which is the ultimate illumination. That Supreme Personality also has a localized aspect as Paramatma. By incarnating himself as the son of Satyavati and Parasara, he explains the Vedic knowledge as Vyasadeva. So, therefore, Krishna is the cause and the effect of everything. And nothing is independent of him, and eventually he reabsorbs everything back into himself. So he existed before everything existed, and he is present everywhere in the spiritual and material creation, and he can also reabsorb everything. And so, therefore, he is one and all at the same time, or in other words, he is the Supreme Personality Godhead, and no one comes close to him. Not even Narayana is subordinate to the Lord, although Narayana is a direct expansion of the Lord, but he is the first Narayana, and then all the other Narayanas come from him. So, this is a very important verse, 5:18, if you analyze it and look carefully at the Sanskrit words. Now, another major point, it says, in some of the Vedas, Prabhupada says, it is also said that in the beginning only the impersonal Brahman existed. Now, this is a type of a statement that Mayavadis hold on to. They say, oh, I see, it's in the Vedas, right? But, however, according to this verse, we're talking about the verse in the Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad 1.4.1. The impersonal Brahman, which is the glowing effulgence of the body of the Supreme Lord, may be called the immediate cause, but the cause of all causes, or the remote cause, is the Supreme Personality Godhead. So there's such a thing, we've discussed this before, there's the immediate cause, or the material cause, and there is the remote cause, or the efficient cause. So what's the difference between the two? Well, Prabhupada's going to give an example here. Let's see what he says. The Lord's impersonal feature is existent in the material world because by material senses or material eyes, the Lord cannot be seen or perceived. One has to spiritualize the senses before one can expect to see or perceive the Supreme Lord. But he is always engaged in his personal capacity, and he is eternally visible to the inhabitants of Vaikuntha Lokas, face to face. Therefore, he is materially impersonal, just as the executive head of the state may be impersonal in the government offices, although he is not impersonal in the government house. Similarly, the Lord is not impersonal in his abode, which is always nirasta kuhakam, which means forever free from the illusory representations of the material world, as stated in the very beginning of the Bhagavatam, in the first canto, first chapter, first verse. Therefore, both the impersonal and personal features of the Lord are acceptable, as mentioned in the revealed scriptures. So, where is this mentioned? That the personal and impersonal features of the Lord are acceptable or always existing simultaneously. Well, 7th chapter, 8th verse. Let's see what that says in Bhagavad Gita. It says, where Krishna says, 7th chapter, 8th verse, Rasoham apsakonteya pravasvi sasisura. He says, O son of Kunti, I am the taste of water, the light of the sun and the moon, the syllable Om in the Vedic mantras. I am the sound and ether and ability in man. And in the purport, Prabhupada writes, the taste of water is the active principle of water. No one likes to drink water. No one likes to drink seawater because the pure taste of water is mixed with salt. Attraction for water depends on the purity of the taste. And this pure taste is one of the energies of the Lord. The impersonalist perceives the presence of the Lord in water by its taste, and the personalist also glorifies the Lord for his kindly supplying tasty water to quench man's thirst. That is the way of perceiving the Supreme. Practically speaking, there is no conflict between personalism and impersonalism. One who knows God knows that the impersonal conception and personal conception are simultaneously present in everything, and that there is no contradiction. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya established his sublime doctrine, Achintya, Beda, and Abeda Tattva, simultaneous and inconceivable oneness and difference. Okay, so let's try and understand this, because this is a very important point. This is misunderstood by the Mayavadis. They say there's only the impersonal effulgence that is the supreme source of everything, and that's an incorrect statement. The devotees say that the Brahmajyoti, as Krishna says in 14th chapter, 27th verse, is emanating from him. It's his effulgence that's emanating from his body, and above the Brahmajyoti is the Paramatma, and above the Paramatma is Krishna, the source of everything, who's a person. Just like if you go to an Amazon office, you probably will not see Jeff Bezos. He's probably in some rocket going in outer space and then coming back again right away. Because he's not crazy. He's not trying to go to the Mars or the moon, because he'll probably never come back if that happens. But he takes a 10 or 15 minute flight through space and comes back right away. And it's not really space, it's just maybe a few hundred miles up into the sky, and then come back again. But or he can be vacationing with his friends, or he can be on a yacht, but his company is still functioning. There's the offices, there's the warehouses, there's thousands and thousands of workers, and they feel his presence in the sense that everything is coming from him. All the orders, all the strategies and everything. So when you go into the office of Amazon, there's only an impersonal presence of Jeff Bezos, right? But if you can get into that rocket that's going, up in the air for about 10 minutes, now you see him personally. So in the same way, we don't see Krishna in the material world because our senses are so blunt. But if you purify the senses, you can see him always, whether in the material world or the spiritual world. But as long as we have these blunt senses, just like if you get a cataract, you eventually have blurred vision, and if you have it in both eyes, eventually, when it gets really bad, you don't see anything. And you think you're blind, but actually you're not blind. It's just that there is a very thick, opaque film that's developed because you eat too much junk food and have very bad habits, eating habits, sleeping habits, and then you get a cataract. So then it is possible to melt the cataract, and now you can see again, because there was nothing wrong with your eye. It was just this opaque type of film that covered the eye, you see. So in the same way now, when there is a very cloudy day, and in Seattle we have these very, very cloudy days, and it's even somewhat dark, you can't see the sun. Now, is the sun covered by the clouds? Let's ask that question. What do you think, Prabhu? What is covered? Because something has to be covered because you can't see the sun, right? What is covered? Yeah, our eyes are covered by the clouds. Say, even though the clouds are up in the air, but it's a covering. So therefore, it's obstructing us from seeing the sun. Now, if you get in an airplane, you go through the clouds, you go above the clouds, you see the sun. So the sun is shining. You can't say, or at nighttime, it's completely dark. Would you say that the sun is not shining? No, it's because we're on a part of the earth that has rotated, but the sun is shining on the other side of the earth. Right? The sun is always shining. So just because we can't see something doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So we don't see Jeff Bezos. Do we say, well, he's dead now? No, he's not dead. Oh, he doesn't exist. He disappeared. He was pulverized into the atmosphere. No, he's still there. And all the workers know he's still there because if they misbehave in some way or other, he fires them. He kicks them out. He does that all the time. Right? It's his direct order. Kick this guy out. They kick him out. So, therefore, the impersonal Bezos is existing and the personal Bezos is existing simultaneously. Right? He's existing impersonally by his orders and by his strategies and by his investments and so forth. And he is existing personally because, his friends see him on a regular basis, or his top vice presidents see him. But most of the people don't see him. Okay. So this principle, therefore, both the impersonal and personal features of the Lord are acceptable as mentioned in the revealed scriptures. This personality of God is very emphatically explained in the Bhagavad Gita in connection with the verse Brahmano hi pratistaham, that's 14:27. Therefore, in all ways, the confidential part of spiritual knowledge is realization of the personality of Godhead and not his impersonal Brahman feature. Now, this is a very important point. When we talk about knowledge, now we've looked into the dictionary, the American dictionary, and the definition of knowledge, as they give it there, is not the same as the definition of knowledge in the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. That's to be understood. So in the Bhagavad Gita it says, the most confidential part of knowledge is that one should become a pure devotee of Krishna and always think of him and act for him. One should not become an official meditator. Life should be so molded that one will always have the chance to think of Krishna. One should always act in such a way that all his daily activities are in connection with Krishna. He should arrange his life in such a way that throughout the 24 hours he cannot but think of Krishna. And the Lord's promise is that anyone who is in such pure consciousness will certainly return to the abode of Krishna, where he will be engaged in the association of Krishna face to face. This most confidential part of knowledge is spoken by Arjuna because he is the dear friend of Krishna. Everyone who follows the path of Arjuna can become a dear friend of Krishna and obtain the same perfection as Arjuna. Now, do you think you would ever hear this in a school? No, they don't know what knowledge is. They claim they do. They claim that they're teaching knowledge, but actually they're not teaching knowledge, they're teaching ignorance. It's not knowledge. Knowledge is a different thing. See? So the definition of knowledge in the dictionary, Merriam-Webster dictionary or any dictionary, is wrong. or very sketchy. Let's put it like that. Give them a little bit of credit, but it's not much credit. It's just like being shortchanged. You buy something for 30 cents, but you give $1, and they give you back 10 cents. So you were shortchanged, right? So that's what's happening when people go to these schools, so-called to get knowledge. They actually get ignorance, and they're never will be able to get free of the cycle of birth and death. That's real ignorance. So then here we have some very interesting verses. In the first canto, in Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, 5th chapter, 20th verse, there's a very interesting statement. Where is my phone? Did I forget to bring my phone? I think so. Okay. Well, it says idam vishwam, and so forth. It explains that Krishna is not only himself, but he's also the entire creation, because it's all made from his energies. So he is one and different. Just like when it's a sunny day, you feel the warmth of the sun on your forehead, and so the sun is on your forehead, but yet the sun is far away. It's simultaneously present and distant. So in the same, and the energy that you're feeling is the energy of the sun. It's heat. But you can't say that heat or light is the sun, although you can't separate them from the sun. So by the expansion of his energy, he's present on your forehead, but yet the sun is far away. The same way, by Krishna's expansion as Paramatma, he's present in the heart of every living entity, but yet he's far away and he's independent. He's not affected by what's happening in your body or in the material world. And he's enjoying playing his flute, playing with the cows and the gopas and the gopis. He's having a good time, right? Just like all Bezos's workers are struggling in their factories to fill orders and get them out, and it's like a sweatshop. But he's out in the Bahamas enjoying himself. But everyone's working for him. He's controlling them. He's forcing them to work so many hours. But yet he's free and he's enjoying. So that's a gross example. But Krishna is always in the spiritual world, but yet he is always present in the material world also. So therefore, Prabhupada explains here that therefore, in all ways, the confidential part of spiritual knowledge is realization of the personality of Godhead. So that's what he said. Bhagavad Gita, 18th chapter, 65th verse, in the purport, and now he's saying it in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 2nd canto, 9th chapter, 33rd verse. He says, therefore, in all ways, the confidential part of spiritual knowledge is realization of personality of Godhead, and not his impersonal Brahman feature, as the Mayavadis say. One should therefore have his ultimate aim of realization not in the impersonal feature, but in the personal feature of the absolute truth. The example of the sky within the pot and the sky outside the pot may be helpful to the student for his realization of the all-pervading quality of the cosmic consciousness of the absolute truth. So in other words, there's sky in a pot, right? But there's also the sky in the universe, right? So if you think that the sky in the pot is the only sky, you're in illusion. Now, does the pot exist? Yes. Does the sky in the pot exist? Yes. But to think that the sky in the pot is the whole sky, that's an illusion. Or to think that the pot is the sky, it's an illusion, right? It's not false. It actually exists. There is a pot and there is sky in the pot. But to think that that's the whole sky, that's an illusion. See? So there can definitely exist things like the sky in the pot. But to think that that's the whole sky, that's an illusion. And this is what's happening. The sky in the pot is a reality. It's real, and the sky in the universe is real. But to think that the sky in the pot is all the universe, that's an illusion. So something can be real, but the understanding of it can be false, and illusory. So therefore, almost everything we learn in mundane knowledge is an illusion. It's illusory. It's not actually a fact. Like, for example, we just found out 2 days ago that the Big Bang is no longer considered to be the source of the material creation, right? Although that was published in 2017. But have they changed the textbooks in the schools? I don't think so. They're still teaching. They have? No, they haven't. No. So they're still teaching that everything started with the Big Bang. Although it's been published that the most scientists don't believe the Big Bang is the source of the beginning of the creation. That something happened before it. Yeah. So here we see that yes, is there a material creation? Yes. Did it start by Big Bang? No. Right? But yet they still teach it. And the same thing with the origin of species. They still teach that there is no God. It happened by some miraculous lightning that struck an original primordial soup that was on the North Pole or the South Pole, and it created the first proteins, right, from amino acids in the primeval soup. And then they developed one-celled living entities, and then 2 cells, then 4 cells, then 8 cells, and so forth, and human beings, and eyes and ears and noses. All nonsense. None of it is true. Yeah, is there a primordial soup? Maybe there was, because they can make a primordial soup today also. You can make a soup also, right, at home, right? Anyone can make a primordial soup with some amino acids and things like that. But can you make a living being from the amino acids? No, you can't. You can't even make one living cell from the amino acids. But you can put all the electricity you want into the primeval soup. It won't happen. So you see how things are real, but the understanding of those things are false. And this is going on all the time. And we're so fooled, we think, like, for example, we just read yesterday that there's a new movement now. Many people who get PhDs and university education and can get very good jobs, they're quitting the jobs and going back to farming, right? We read that, right? They're going back to farming. Why? Because they realize that they're just wasting their time trying to make all this money. It's much more realistic as far as the quality of life and as far as one's surroundings to be working in nature, because you become a little bit closer to God. But let's say you're working in an office all the time, you're not as close to God as when you're working in nature, and you see that we're completely dependent on nature, and nature is controlled by God. So therefore there's more of a chance of coming to what's called here the most confidential part of knowledge, is that one should become a pure devotee of Krishna and always think of him and act for him. So that's actually knowledge, right? But is anyone teaching that in the schools? They don't teach that. Even in the religious schools, it's not clear what they're teaching. I mean, sometimes it might become clear, but it's not as clear as this. So, therefore, one should therefore have his ultimate aim of realization not in the impersonal feature, but in the personal feature of the absolute truth. Okay. Someone who claims to be God, and there's so many people claiming to be God nowadays, that is the last, that means they're a victim of the illusory energy in her last snare. I mean, the last, or the epitome of stupidity and illusion is to claim, for someone to claim that they are God. And there's so many people today claiming that they are God. Yeah. It just shows that's the last snare of illusion. We're already in illusion, but there are different degrees of illusion, and the greatest degree of illusion is the claim that I am God. or I'm going to become God very soon by meditating or taking LSD or whatever. See? So, even in the impersonal existence of the Lord, as it is in the material creation, one should aspire for personal realization of the Lord, and that is the meaning of Paschad Aham Yad Etachcha Yo Vasisyeta Sosmi Aham. And Brahmaji also accepted the same truth when he was instructing Narada. He said, So yam te bihitas tata Bhagavan Vishwa Bhavanaha. Srimad Bhagavatam 2.7.50. There is no other cause of all causes than the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari. Therefore, this verse, Aham Eva, never indicates anything other than the Supreme Lord, and one should therefore follow the path of Brahma Sampradaya, or the path from Brahmaji to Narada to Vyasadeva, etc., and make it a point in life to realize the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, or Lord Krishna. This very confidential instruction to the pure devotees of the Lord was also given to Arjuna and to Brahma in the beginning of the creation. The demigods like Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara, Indra, Chandra, and Varuna are undoubtedly different forms of the Lord for execution of different functions, the different elemental ingredients of material creation, as well as the multifarious energies, also may be of the same personality of Godhead. But the root of all of them is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. One should be attached to the root of everything rather than bewildered by the branches and leaves. That is the instruction given in this verse, 2nd Canto, 9th chapter, 33rd verse. Okay, so we come to the end of this 2-week plus expose of the, and we can never come to the end, but for the time being, we've come to the end of understanding the absolutely unique qualities of Krishna that cannot be emulated by anyone. And Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is Ekala Ishvara Krishna. In other words, no one is equal to him, no one is greater than him. Once you understand that, you become a real devotee. How many people actually understand that? Very, very few. Very, very few. Because we're still bewildered by the false definitions of the dictionary, of the Encyclopedia Britannica, of the school teachers, and the school textbooks. They're all full of false knowledge. Nothing real. It's all illusory. And therefore, the world is real, but the understanding of it, as far as the scientists, philosophers, and politicians go, is an illusion. It's not real. Haribol. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. That's why all their plans are failing. Bhakta Joe is failing. Bhakta Trump failed. And Bhakta Clinton failed. They're all failing because they are all in illusion, because they don't have real knowledge. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai. And we will fail also unless we understand the unique qualities of Krishna. Okay. Let's see. So, anybody want to lead? You want to lead the Aarti?
Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Satma Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakti Sadma
Bandhamoi Savadana Mate
Bandhamoi Savadana Mate
Bandhamoi Savadana Mate
Bandhamoi Savadana Mate
Jahara Prasade Bhai Ye Bhava Turiya Jai
Janara Prasade Bhai Ye Bhavatoriya Jai
Krishna Prapti Hoi Jaha Hoite Krishna Prapti Hoi Jaha Hoite Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chite Te Koriya Kya
Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Shitete Koriya
Arana Kori Ho Mane Asa
Arana Koriya Manea Sa
Arana Kori Ho Mane Asa
Arana Koriya Manea Sa
Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Uttama Gati
Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Uttama Gati
Jai Prasade Pure Sarva Asa
Ye Prasad De Pure Sarva Asa
Jai Prasade Pure Sarva Asa
Ye Prasad De Pure Sarva Asa
Shakshudan Dillo Je Janme Janme Prabhu Se
Dakshidana Dila Je Janme Janme Prabhu Se
Divya Gyan Hede Prakasito
Divya Gyan Hide Prakasito
Divya Gyan Hede Prakasito
Divya Gyan Hide Prakasito
Prema Bhakti Jaya Hoite Avidya Vinasa Jate
Prema Bhakti Jaha Hoite Avidya Vinasa Jate
Vede Gai Jahara Charito
Vedika Janara Charito
Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adama Janara Bandhu
Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Ahadana Janara Bandhu
Lokenath Lokera Jivana
Nath Lokera Jivana
Prabhupada Lokera Jivana
Prabhupada Lokera Jivana Oh
Aha Prabhu Kurodaya Deho More Padachaya
Aha Prabhu Kuradaya Deha More Padachaya
Ebe Jai Jishu Tribhuvana
Ebe Askusukti Bhuvana
Prabhupada Patita Pavana
Prabhupada Patita Pavana.
Jayo Prabhupada, Jayo Prabhupada, Jayo Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada.
Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada. Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada.
Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine. Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paschataya Deshadarine.
Namaste Saraswati Deve
Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshadarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol.
Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parvajika Shasta Tarasatara Shri Shishimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Alantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Prem se Kaho Shri Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sadvaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Samakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan ki jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Shri Mayapura Dham ki jai. Shri Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai. Tulasi Devi ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Ganga Maya ki jai. Jamuna Maya ki jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Nitai Gaura Premanandi. All glories to the assembled Lord. All glories to the assembled. All glories to the assembled. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Guranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Patita Pavana ki jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhakti Smriti Bhakti. Namaste Saraswati Devi Guru Vani Pachani Nivrisesa Sunyavani Paskati Dasatane. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain the pure devotional service. I bow down to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. I only wish to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is perfection and fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him ecstatic prema emanates. By him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master, the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor and Lord of past of the devotees. O Master, be merciful unto us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread throughout all the three worlds. We take shelter of lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada, Patita Pavan ki jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhakti Smriti Bhakti. Namaste Saraswati Devi Guru. Nivrisesa Sunyavadi Paskati Dasatana. Hare Krishna.